Hey everyone, the new title for the next Spider-Man movie has been announced, and it really does raise a bunch of story questions. Like, what do you do when everyone you know, everything you are, and everything you have to call your own is just wiped from existence, and the people you love most have no connection to you anymore? How do you get past that? How do you deal with that? And how does it change who you will become and the choices that you make moving forward when everything you hoped for in your life has been wiped away and sacrificed for the good of everyone else but you? That is the question I sat with at the end of Spider Man No Way Home. What would they do? What could they do? What could happen next in this story? Would this change the core of who Peter Parker is now that he's utterly alone in the world? There are questions that I want to explore as we talk about the news that just dropped at CinemaCon. The next film is officially titled Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it's slated to release on July 31st of 2026, which looks like it's going to be next year's most anticipated summer blockbuster. So, what do we know? Official details are still pretty light. And here's what's been confirmed though: Tom Holland is back as Peter Parker, Zendaya returns as MJ, and we've got Sadie Sink joining the cast in an unknown but possibly significant role. We're still waiting on announcements for other returning cast members, which would help us to get a better sense of what the story just might contain. However, I really hope that they bring back Jacob Batalon as Ned because his friendship with Peter has always added that really kind of necessary comic heart to the story. And without it, I think something vital could be missing from the story. But here's what's really interesting about this film: it's going to be directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who's best known for Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. Also returning, and this one's really important, is the writing team of Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, who co wrote the previous three Spider Man films. Their continued involvement really adds a sense of narrative continuity that I think would have been otherwise missing from this film. And I think they'll be able to bring that emotional depth to Peter Parker's evolving story, which is kind of reassuring at this point. Looking at the pieces of the story puzzle from where we left off in No Way Home, the new title, Brand New Day, already tells us something really big. Peter's story is shifting gears. We're likely looking at a smaller, more personal story, and maybe something that's a bit darker than the last three films. MJ and Ned are probably off at college, and Peter is essentially left behind. And you know what? That's actually a feeling that a lot of people have experienced, that feeling of loneliness, of being the person who's left behind and cut off from your closest friends and your family, separated from anyone and everyone who truly understands you. And they are changing into new people without you. And that is something that I think a lot of us can relate to, especially after high school or some kind of major life change that just puts us in a different trajectory. There is a deep emotional well at the core of that kind of story. And I hope this film explores that. It also opens up possibilities here. MJ's memory of Peter, it's gone. But is it? Is it really gone? Does it have to be? Could she start to sense something is missing? Could Ned stumble across something that kind of reawakens his connection to Peter, especially since they have this deep connection that's kind of magical in a way. And he and MJ have this deep connection that is sparked by love. And there might be some story threads there that could generate these tiny sparks of memory between them through continued association or different things that are happening in the world around them. Those could be incredibly powerful if the film does it right, if the studio addresses these things. And this could really help to reconnect the story to the lore rather than letting it diverge too far into new territory that has previously caused fan frustration. And I think they would be better served by avoiding that, because this particular series of Spider Man movies is really a much loved and much embraced film series, and they really need to be very careful there. The title, Brand New Day, isn't just a clever metaphor, it's a direct reference to the 2008 comic storyline in which Peter Parker, after one more day, resets his entire life. In the comics, he literally makes a deal with the demon Mephisto to save Aunt May's life. And in return, his marriage to MJ is erased, along with the public's knowledge of his identity. This aligns with the sacrifice that Peter made in No Way Home, and it opens the theme of exploring the personal cost of heroism on a person's life, on Peter's life. It was kind of a controversial arc in the comics that followed what Peter was trying to do when he was rebuilding his life and his friendships and his role as Spider Man from the ground up. And if this movie taps into even a fraction of that emotional reset while still finding ways to honor the lore, we could be looking at a Peter Parker who's not just isolated, but searching for a reason to keep being the hero he sacrificed everything to become. That is a powerful storyline. That is powerful story potential. Since we don't have a trailer yet, there's still a lot to be developed here. It's too early to make any initial judgments about the story at this point or the visuals that they might be using. However, I really do hope that the artistic direction and effects reflect this new grounded tone, this more grittier tone that the film seems to be setting up with that title. And I hope that shows up in the cinematography. So I would really love it if this new film gave us the raw shots of the city, those nighttime alleys that we are used to in those old school Spider-Man moments. I want to see him swinging through the tenement rooftops, not just skyscrapers. Let's see Spider Man as part of the populace, not just the higher levels of society. Let the silence of Peter's loss sit in the scenes where Peter is feeling truly alone and unconnected from the world that he just saved. Let Tom Holland lean into that character. Let him feel those story beats that could display the depths of emotion that Peter is feeling while still giving us a path to hope. Honestly, I'd love to see something that's stylistically falling between the Batman and Daredevil and still keeps that lighter side of Spider-Man's optimism that has become the signature style of Tom Holland films. Because if it goes too dark, it might lose that hopeful spark that makes Peter Parker so relatable in this series. But it also needs to reflect the emotional toll that he is having to grow through and to grow with as a young man. And that is a story that I am in for. That is a story I want to see. The challenges that Peter will face are going to be catalyzed by the confrontation of a villain who challenges who he is as a person, as a growing young man. And it needs to be someone who he can't really walk away from. And this is where things could get super interesting with the development of the storylines, depending on which way they go. My personal hope is that the filmmakers resist the urge to go really big with another multiversal world ending threat that just oh, I'm just so tired of that. I really think we need to think smaller and more intimate. We need to see a gritty villain. We need to see someone who forces Peter to confront the darkness in himself and that desperation, that sadness that is growing there, that would be there after being left behind. This would be a much better match for this part of his story as a hero. Like, why not bring in Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio? He could be a perfect antagonist. We already know he exists in the MCU. And with his control over the New York underworld, he could really introduce real world stakes, corruption, organized crime, and moral ambiguity. He doesn't need alien tech. He's freaking terrifying because he is human and he is powerful and he is super cold. This would connect Spider Man to the grittier street level drama where the people live. Or they could go with someone like Scorpion. He hasn't had his day on screen yet, but in the comics, his feud with Spider Man becomes deeply personal. This film will likely be a very personal film for Peter. So bringing Scorpion in really might be, just the thing to do. And they could bring him in even as a pawn of Kingpin. And they could press Peter from both sides, with Peter already dealing with loss and isolation. These two villains, they could just threaten to extinguish what little light he has left, forcing him to reclaim who he is or lose himself entirely. This could be a story of how a hero saves himself, and how a villain inadvertently lights that fire of his own undoing by catalyzing the hero into action. Now, even if Peter meets someone new in this film, like a new love interest, and he just might, because I think that sometimes you do have to grow emotionally on your own in order to grow emotionally with that person that you are truly connected with. And I think there's still a really strong emotional thread between him and MJ. I mean, honestly, they kind of feel like soulmates in this version of the MCU, and giving them a second chance is possible, especially if they come back together as adults who've lived through trauma and heartbreak and growing up. And it would be really powerful to see the two of them kind of find love again as adults, because we know how well they work together. Could their paths cross again? Could love and memory resurface? It would be a beautiful callback to that idea. Even when everything's been erased, true love, it finds a way. A love conquers all story to some extent would add this romantic element into the film that I think would honor the lore, appease the fans, and really help Peter to be the man and the Spider Man he was always meant to be. I also think that this film could help rebalance the MCU. We have had a lot of multiverse spectacle lately: big explosions, collapsing timelines, crossovers from hell from every angle. But Brand New Day feels like Marvel's saying, all right, guys, let's get back to the street. This could create space for more grounded heroes like Daredevil, which they are already doing on Disney Plus. We'll just have to see how that one finishes off. Or even Blade to emerge. And I would love to see Blade come back into the MCU. That would be amazing. It could refocus Marvel's next phase on stories that resonate because they are personal, because they are about people like you and me, and not just these unrelatable catastrophes and unrelatable superhuman heroes who leave human collateral just splashed in their wake. I'm willing to give this film a chance. We'll have to see how it turns out. It has a lot of potential, and the director and the writers have solid street cred with Spider Man and other superhero films. So I think Brand New Day has a chance to be one of the most emotionally complex Spider Man stories yet. One that balances grief with hope and growth with recovery. It's the kind of story that reminds me of why Peter Parker has always been the most human of the heroes. He gets knocked down again and again, and he finds a way to stand up every time. And that's one of the things that makes him special. But hey, guys, that is not all. In addition to the news about Spider Man Brand New Day, there's also some exciting news from Sony about the Spider-Verse. It looks like Spider Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, the final chapter in Miles Morales' animated trilogy, is set to hit theaters on June 4th, 2027. This film will continue Miles' journey as he confronts new challenges across the multiverse, including a face-off with his counterpart Miles G. Morales, also known as the Prowler. We can look forward to an emotionally charged and visually stunning conclusion to Miles' story based on what we have seen in the first two films. All right, so that's what I'm thinking. All of this is still far in the future for both of those films, especially for the Miles Morales one. And we haven't even seen any trailers yet. So it's still all lots of speculation out there. Still lots of things unknown. However, based on the information that we have for these two Spider-Man films, it really does seem like the next 2 years could bring us some really amazing Spider Sunshine with Spider-Man Brand New Day and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. But now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? What are your theories for Brand New Day's story arc? Are you hoping to see MJ remember Peter or Ned return? Or maybe a brand new surprise villain we haven't talked about yet? I want to see what you have to say. I will be in the comments with you. I look forward to talking with you about this film. So be sure to drop a comment. And hey, while you're here, why not give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, you guys. I'll see y'all again soon with a new review. In the meantime, why not check out one of these two videos? Happy viewing for now. Bye.